Greetings and salutations. Welcome to episode 2 of Recreational Insanity, my podcast of practice and learning and applying what I'm learning and just general ranting. I am your host, Liam Larson. Where to start? If you're a returning listener, thanks. And thanks for listening again. If you're a new listener, thanks. Thanks for listening. And let's start with a little bit of a recap. It's been 3 weeks since my first post, my first show, and a little tech update on the status of my Mongoloid home studio is that I am now using a Behringer C1 condenser mic as opposed to the little Sony handheld mic that I had been using, that I had rather ingeniously duct taped to an IKEA light stand. And I'm using a tube-type mic preamp for my mic since it needs phantom power. And the mixer I was using didn't have phantom power. So yeah, it's still kind of cobbled together. And we'll see how the new recording sounds. If this is better or worse. For what I spent, I'm hoping it'd be just a smidge better. I didn't break the bank because I bought the preamp used. I bought the mic new though, and I had to buy an XLR cable and a little tabletop mic stand. So I'm hoping this'll sound a little better. It'll sound different, I'm sure, because I know the tube preamp gives a more distinct sound. I'm not exactly sure how it differs from normal preamps, digital preamps, or how that works. I might do a little bit more research on it, and just from doing these podcasts, I'll note the difference in the sound, and I'm sure you will too. Anyways, onward. It's been a hectic 3 weeks. Lots of promotions and lots of production, and this probably doesn't mean a lot to people who aren't actually in the program or in the school. Let me explain. My class, Radio Production 2, we are basically recording a commercial a week. And that may not sound like a lot of work, because when it comes down to it, it isn't too much work. It's writing a script for 30 seconds of talk, and then taking that and turning it into actually 30 seconds of talk, and adding music and adding sound effects, and the end result hopefully doesn't sound anything like the commercial I played you in my first episode. The end result should sound professional, and it should pull people in. And yeah, that's my class. So I've had 3 weeks. That's 3 assignments, 3 commercials. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy production. I enjoy the voicing of the commercials. I enjoy editing the voices and doing all the little fiddly bits with the computer. It's a lot of fun. And promotions. I also mentioned promotions. This is a relatively new concept to me because I'm very, very new to the whole radio thing. And promotions it's those, call in and win, beat the bank, name that song. The promotions, the contests that radio stations put on with their sponsors. And the assignment was basically come up with a promotion or do a presentation around an existing promotion and basically work out how it'll work, how people will win, how the contest works, do commercials, so more production and promotion. And yeah, so it was a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. There's quite a bit of work in this new semester. but there's no shortage of time to get it done. That's very strange for me, because in the other programs that I've been in, free time has kind of been at a premium. There never seemed to be enough time to get assignments done. And that may have to do with the fact that I procrastinate a lot, or, I'm simply just not up to the task. And that's another funny thing about me. I mean, the time that I spend at school, the flip side of that is that time just really physically drains me. Being around people, interacting with people, just being in the same room with people, if you can understand it, I find physically and mentally demanding. And afterwards, I usually spend an equal or longer amount of time just on my own, recovering, working on assignments, or simply doing nothing at all. Reading, sitting there, napping. And this program, I've worked it out. And the other programs, I was resisting that urge. I wanted to be able to go to school, and I wanted to be able to, go out and socialize and go and do this journalism thing. But I wasn't physically able to do it. I know it may sound like a lame excuse to some people, but that's just me. That's the way I roll, and I don't really have much of a choice about that. So now I've recognized that if I go out and I do something, I have to pay for it later. Whether this is part of, my mental health issues, or if it's a combination of mental health and my type 2 diabetes, I don't know. It probably is a combination of the two, because on one hand, I'm fighting with social phobia and depression and all that fun stuff. And I've also got my blood sugar, which is fluctuating and messing with my moods and my energy levels. So yeah, I'm a barrel of laughs. But this is how I deal with it. I take my downtime. I just try and remain very zen about this and make the best of it. So yeah, that's your depressing, sad news about how I live. I guess that's sort of fitting, because this week was Mental Health Week. I'm sure if you've watched television at all, you've seen those lame Bell ads featuring an Olympic skater or something who suffered with depression for 2 years. And I mean, I don't want to sound overly negative here, because sure, they're advertising this one day that every text message and every call is going to end up as $1 or something donated to mental health awareness. And that's a good thing. I think people should be more aware of it. And the fact that they found a spokesperson who was recognizable is a good thing too. And I don't know, maybe it's me being cynical and jaded, but when I hear a person say that they've struggled with depression for 2 years of their life, that kind of makes me think, I don't even know what the word is for it. It's not jealousy, it's not indignance. I guess I'm just perturbed by it. I'm going to stick with that. I'm perturbed by it, because my mental health issues didn't end after a 2-year period. I continue to struggle with them. And that may be down to my resistance to medication. I've been medicated before on several occasions, and it hasn't ended well. To make a long story short, it usually ends up in me having major side effects, including stuff ranging from narcolepsy to insomnia, agitation. It's basically a case of the cure being worse than the disease. I think there's a lot of people in my situation that feel that way about medication. And I mean, to each their own. People who have found the right balance of medication and that can function on that more normal level, that's great. But for me, it was, I couldn't function well, let me clarify. I could function on a normal level for a few hours of the day. The rest of the time, 16 hours of my day or more would be sleep. No questions. I had no control over this. I was so doped up that it was basically a 16 to 18 hour coma, and then there'd be this short period during the day where I would be awake. I'd be so drug-addled that I couldn't do simple math in my head, and that I'd just be walking around like a zombie. And for me, the choice between walking around a few hours of the day like a zombie or being able to tough it out. So there were times that I tried going back to work. And that was hard for me because I'm interacting with people, I'm getting stressed out, that kind of stuff happens. So again, this podcast has become more about me and my interactions with the world and my little problems, my experiences. I promised I'd tell some amusing stories about my life, and I'll probably get around to that, instead of boring you with my experience with psychotropic drugs and side effects. You know, it's not a happy time. It's not a fun time having to deal with something like a brain that doesn't work properly. It's not something that I can switch on and off, or that I can take a break from. You know, every minute of every day I deal with this. Now, I'm not saying that somehow makes me special. What I am saying is that there's a lot of people out there like me that deal with these situations, that face the challenges of mental illness, and they don't come out of it very well. Some of them don't make it out the other side of it. Some of them have success with medication, some of them don't. Some of them end up as homeless people on the street, and they lose everything. And when I look at people like that, when I see that kind of thing happening, that makes me sad, because someone could have helped them. Someone could have recognized their problem and given them help. And if they had been receptive to that help, then maybe they'd be in a better situation. When I look at the choices that I've made around my mental health, I know that if I had stayed on medication, or if I had done something differently, I probably would have been in a very different situation. Now, some of those situations are probably worse than the one I'm in, and some of them might have been better. But the thing that I take away from all of this is that I accept who I am. I accept that I'm different. Again, I'm not saying that this problem that I have makes me special. I'm saying it makes me different. I don't know if that means the same thing to some people. If it has a negative connotation, like saying that I am special, as in short bus special. But yeah, I'm different. My brain works differently from normal people, if I can use the N-word. I don't particularly like the term normal, because that implies that there is some kind of social baseline, that people above the baseline are good and normal and wholesome, and people under that baseline are abnormal and somehow bad. For me, I'm the first one to admit that, I'm kind of a pervert and a degenerate. I'm not wholesome. I'll admit that. I've done some things that are not wholesome. And I'm pretty sure there's some people out there that claim to be wholesome that have done some very unwholesome things. But they won't admit it, either to the world or to themselves even. But I admit it, I'm different, and I'm proud of it. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm very happy with where I am in the universe. I'm happy that I have my own little corner that I can come back to. I'm happy that I can sit here and rant on a microphone and post it onto the internet. I'm happy that I can sit here and take care of my cats. And I'm just happy in general, most of the time. But then my blood sugar or my brain chemistry will kind of do a switcho-changeo on me, and then I get all introspective and morose and, woe is me. And that's the dark side of being different the way I am, is that I get to deal with these roller coasters and these ups and downs, which happen when you least want them to happen. They happen at random. They happen when they happen. And now that I'm a type 2 diabetic, I have to deal with the fact that a lot of the times the reason they happen is because I didn't eat right, or I don't exercise as regularly as I should. Which, that's a very strange thing to be aware of, to wrap your brain around, is that when I say it, it sounds a lot more believable, but my actions, be they what I eat, what I do during my day, the amount of exercise I take, directly impact my mood. I guess if I had a care and feeding manual for my body, and I knew the way that I was exactly supposed to do things, chances are I would have thrown the manual out with the box and wouldn't bother listening to them anyway. I know if I took better care of myself, if I ate healthier, if I exercised every day, I'd probably be a lot more pleasant to be around. I'd probably interact with people more and probably be a little bit more happy. But of course, here's the rub. I don't really have a problem with who I am. I've already said that. I know I'm different. I'm happy being different. And the experiences that I've had on medication have shown me that being different from who you are, changing your outlook, either through medication or through clean living or anything like that, really fundamentally changes who you are. You may still be you in name, but you may not be you in mind, or at least not the you that you were before the change. That sounded a lot less crazy before I said it. I think the point that I'm making is that I like being who I am. I don't have a problem with being different. Well, I think that'll about do it for this part of episode 2. I'm attempting a 2-part episode, this part being 20 minutes or so in length, just an update and my take on Mental Health Week, being a mental sort of, gives me a unique perspective on this whole endeavor. But anyways, thank you for listening to part 1 of episode 2 of Recreational Insanity. I will be back with part 2, and I'll discuss something other than myself and keep you entertained. That's the plan. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to check out part 2. And may I remind you, sanity is overrated. I encourage you to try the alternative.